Welcome to the show, everyone. You watch UAP 233. I'm John. I'm your host today. So I want to get into this idea a little bit deeper, right? Where these non-human entities have interfered in battles or influenced people in the construction of monolithic structures. And one of them is the Battle of Kurukshetra. Kuru, Kurukshetra. It's in the Mahabharata. Sorry, I probably butchered it, but you know what I'm saying. But the Mahabharata is this great book or scripture, whatever you want to say, but it's ancient Hindu texts, and they describe divine beings intervening in this legendary war between like Krishna, who was an avatar of Vishnu, and he served as like Arjuna's charioteer. So he wasn't actually like the leader, but he was like a confidant of Arjuna, who was human, and he was offering supernatural guidance, celestial weapons granted by gods, and it played a decisive role in this conflict. And that's just one aspect of this. And that brings me back to what Diana Pasulka said about the controllers, right? Controllers. And these they're not actually the leaders, but they're the people that have the leader's ear. And that kind of reminds me of this Krishna, this avatar of Vishnu, and this conversation that he had with Arjuna prior to this great battle. And it's a legendary. Some people believe it's definitely historic that it happened. And you look at places in India, there's actually places that they believe some type of extreme heat actually turned the sand to like a glassine type of material. Now could that have been from some type of huge weapons or maybe something that just fell from space? I don't know. But when you look at these huge structures that were built then, I believe that there possibly was some type of celestial influence, right? It's strange. And then the next one is the angelic intervention at the siege of Jerusalem, which was 700 BC. And its biblical accounts suggest that an angel wiped out a whole Assyrian army overnight, saving the city from destruction. And some historians speculate disease or psychological warfare, but ancient texts attribute it to divine intervention. And what do you guys think of that? I mean, is it possible? I mean, what are we dealing with here? And is it still around today and we just don't realize it? And that's whenever I start seeing these interviews with James Fox where he's talking about these beings that look just like us. Some of them are blonde hair, tall, blue eyes. And you know, in ancient India, there's legends. Well, it's not even legends. This is like their history that the Aryans, and this is where that term came from, Aryan, which really just means noble. And uh, I'm not sure the language. And they were conquered by these pale, blue-eyed beings. I'm going to give you a newer case, right? Something a little bit more modern, not quite today, but the Battle of Mons, right? It was World War One. We're talking 1914, man. And British soldiers reported seeing angelic figures aiding them against German forces, dubbed the Angels of Mons, right? And this phenomenon remains a mystery to this day. Was it mass hysteria, divine intervention, or something else? So these cases, all the way up to the 20th century, I believe there's also cases in Islam where Muhammad led an army, and supposedly they were aided by angelic beings in a battle. Really makes you wonder, And I believe that. Listen, I just look at the way human nature is, and I just feel that we're very, very like tribal. We're very. we tend to categorize things and label things. And you see this when people get into like arguments or conflicts or some type of, back and forth, even on the internet. People will use certain terms and words and trigger words and labels to try to paint a picture of the person that they're trying to tear down. And it's very effective because the human psyche is geared to this. And I see it today. I see it with, when there's a lot of um, resistance to government, or what they like to do is play different parts of the population against each other to maintain control. And it's nefarious, it is, but it happens. So when I look at human nature and I look at the way humans historically have behaved, acted towards each other, especially in the more distant past, sometimes I wonder if we could hold it together, if we could keep it together. And you look at it today, and it's like we're teetering today, like we're on the edge of this, some type of cataclysmic, mistake, or even if it's purposeful, it's almost as if we need some type of guidance to get through. Because I don't know if we would be able to do it by ourselves. I want to know what you guys think about this. You know, I'm going to get into non-human influence on monolithic structures because I think that's definitely a possibility. And I'm not talking about ancient aliens. I'm talking about something else. This immaterial influence. Maybe like Tesla, Nikola Tesla spoke of having contact. He thought it was people from space. And maybe it is. That influenced him and gave him information. And you hear this a lot, like Gary Nolan and these others that speak of like getting downloads of information. Some people think Einstein was experiencing that. Where they would just have like an epiphany, like things all of a sudden would just make sense, and then they were able to do great things in life, you know. And I believe that that's definitely something that's can be tapped into. I don't know, maybe prayer, meditation. I'm not sure, but I think it's definitely a thing. Especially like if you look at the Kailas, the temple being carved from a single rock, you just look at the temple's construction. I mean, just look at these pictures. It defies conventional methods, man. It's just it. When I first saw this, I mean, it's been on my mind since the day I saw it. I mean, I would love to go there someday. I just think it's an amazing. I think it's up there with the pyramids. I really do, man. And legends suggest divine or extraterrestrial assistance because of its precision and the scale. I mean, it just remains unmatched. I don't think we could do it today. I look, I've done construction. I've been up with jackhammers and cutting concrete with saws and stuff and diamond bladed blades and whatnot. And I just don't know. I mean, I'm sure we could create something like it, but I don't know if we would be able to match the precision and the intricacy of the carvings. It's just amazing. I mean, just look at the pictures. You know, between 200 and 400 tons of rock had to be excavated, and there's no piles of rock anywhere. Like, what did they even do with the rock? That was. Did they use it in a different construction? Because there's no other there's no other structures or anything around. Like, what did they? It's just amazing. And you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, man. And look, granted, the granted, no pun intended, but the the limestone was actually excavated right there, you know, right near where the pyramids were. But the granite, the rose granite and the things that these statues were made of, they had to be quarried from hundreds of miles away and brought in. And some of these statues are one piece and they're like, 30 meters high, just amazing. And then the ability to carve the statues so symmetrically, it's just it makes you think they had to have done it with the machines, And then you look at those little vases, that had to be put on a lathe of some type, which that would have been hard because they had the little tiny handle nubs on the side, and the sides of these vases are so thin, they're like paper thin. Like, how did they not crack it when they carved it? I mean, just check out Uncharted X. I'll leave a link in the description. This guy's amazing, and he really goes into it deep. Also, Christopher Dunn wrote a book about this. I don't know. What do you guys think? The Great Pyramid of Giza. I mean, there had to be some kind of influence. Maybe there was, they had technology we didn't know about. Was there an ancient civilization that was super advanced that we just, have been lost to the, you know, time? Alexandria library burned. Did the records of that civilization burn with it? It's a good question. But modern mainstream archaeologists will laugh at you if you say these things. Even though you point out these facts, they'll still look at you like, they try to say that the hieroglyphs in Egypt that depict a helicopter, a flying saucer, and a submarine, they claim that that hieroglyph is fake. That's what they say. And this is what they say about anything they can't explain. Um, I've actually seen Flint Dibble say that the vases are fake, that they're not even real, that they're modern recreations, you know, just because you can't explain it. And then you look at Gobekli Tepe, right? And, you know, prior to the discovery of Gobekli Tepe, they would say that, there was no civilizations 12,000 years ago that were able to build monolithic structures. But here they discover Gobekli Tepe. So then they have to change. And it must be nice for mainstream archaeology to be able to just, you know, keep reframing their narrative, you know. It must be nice to just be able to change up your account, you know, and just shoot down anybody because they say something that's not peer reviewed. And that's a shame. Really is. But we're not going to get into that. But with Gobekli Tepe, there's some who speculate that non-human entities, whether divine, extraterrestrial, or hyper intelligent, may have played a role in its creation. I don't really know about that. That I mean, look, Gobekli Tepe is impressive, but it couldn't hold Kailas the Temple's jockstrap. Right? Yeah, man. I don't know. What do you guys think? Um, what do you think of this? Right? So are these entities, are they something like, oops, sorry. Are they immaterial? Are they something other than flesh and blood aliens, nuts and bolts? I think so. I think we're dealing with a few different phenomena here. I don't think we're dealing with one thing. I really don't. And I think the Matthew Brown tweets pretty much confirm as much. I believe he's saying the same thing that we've heard for others say, that there's like a hierarchy of beings. And we're going to get into this more. There's the others, there's angelic beings, there's like semi-divine beings, all kind of, you know, and I find it very interesting. And I think that might explain why people like James Fox and others have recorded accounts of ETs looking exactly like us, Robert Dean, and that they are placed in high places. Maybe not the leaders, like you don't actually hear their name, but they have a lot of influence on the leaders. I want you guys to think about that, man. Hit me up in the comments. Please like, share to a friend, share to two friends, because I think this is important. I think this is a good subject for us to really explore. And we're going to keep exploring this in the coming days. I'm going more depth with this. I think it's important. I think we can really learn some things. Hopefully, I influenced the content that you seek out after watching this episode. I think everybody should really research this stuff. Google it, check it out, watch some stuff on YouTube, see what you think about all this. Hit me up in the comments, like, share to a friend, share to two friends. See you tomorrow.